Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to comment on the news that the UK is pulling out of the aviation safety scheme that we're currently part of with the EU. Not just because of the increased risks this poses to flights in the UK, but also to highlight just how much Brexit is costing us. But first, if you'd like to stay notified of daily news in politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, has announced that the UK will be withdrawing from the European Union Aviation Safety Regulator after the transition period. That in itself, though yes, technically news, is not at all surprising, not really worth talking about. However, Boris Johnson has made clear the point that he will not take part in cooperating with our European neighbours on anything at all. He's stopped our health minister from meeting with his counterparts in Europe to coordinate a certain healthcare crisis we're having at the moment. We're also to withdraw from the European arrest warrant scheme as well as other security arrangements. Not only would this prevent us extraditing criminals from the EU that are suspected of committing crimes in the UK but flee the country, it also means we'd have no information on who is crossing the border into the UK from the EU. There could be people with very serious criminal convictions passing across our border very, very easily without us having the faintest idea because we are refusing to let the EU tell us. So the fact that we'd pull out of an EU scheme that deals with flight safety comes as no surprise at all. Frankly, it would be a surprise if Boris Johnson announced that we'd be remaining in any scheme that involves cooperation with Europe at all. In fact, I fully expect him any day now to announce that our football teams won't be able to take part in UEFA competitions, or that next year's Six Nations is going to be knackered too, as if it hasn't been badly enough hit this year. No, the reason why this announcement is important is because this particular scheme, amongst all others, helps us to highlight the extra cost that Brexit inflicts upon us really easily. For example, withdrawing from EU cooperation on a certain healthcare crisis that I'm not allowed to talk about has a large human cost, but it also has an economic cost. Again, if you have to shut down schools, businesses, things like that, obviously that's going to impact the economy. Or even if you don't, but there's workers off self-isolating. But it's not easy to calculate the cost right now. Similarly, the European arrest warrant scheme and other security arrangements will largely have a human cost. There could be an economic cost as well, difficult to gauge. But we are going to need an aviation safety regulator in the UK. We have to replace it. We can't just do without it. And the government has said that we'll just make our own. Okay. They make the point that a number of aviation safety experts working in the EU's equivalent at the moment are British and that they will bring their expertise back. Fair enough, but that is hardly the point. Let's say we have the expertise to set up our own regulator relatively easily. And let's say we have enough of that expertise, which is something, by the way, that the aviation industry has poured scorn on. That still means a human and easily calculable economic cost. So the human cost is that, well, there isn't time to set a regulator up by the end of the year. It's like anything else. It takes time to plan and implement anything. For example, in my background of education, when the government make massive changes to a particular qualification, they massively reform it, happens quite a lot, happens every few years. It always takes 2 or 3 years of planning to get ready for it. We have 10 months. There's simply no time to prepare for anything that we haven't been preparing for several years. And we haven't been preparing anything for several years. So we are onto a loser trying to get it ready by the end of the year. And it is going to mean mistakes. That has the potential to mean lives. Only the potential, we're not saying it's inevitable. But the economic cost is easy. The new British Aviation Authority, which will take over the same duties, which will have British expertise, rather than drawing on expertise from the whole of Europe. So even if, let's say, the bulk of the expertise was from Britain, that's still less than 100%. And that's a big if. But anyway, never mind that. It costs £40 million a year. Okay, I don't know whether that's a lot or not. Let's have a look. The thing is, the EU one that we're currently part of, and is better, as I say, because it draws on expertise, even if a lot of it is from Britain, it still draws on expertise from across Europe, currently costs £4 million a year. So we're going to be paying 10 times as much for a weaker version of our own, for something we could easily be in. And remember this, This isn't a bargaining chip. As far as the EU is concerned, this is not a bargaining chip. We could join all of these separate schemes that have nothing to do with trade completely separately to negotiating a trade agreement, because it's in the EU's interests as well. So they're not going to be difficult about it. It's only us being difficult about membership of these schemes. We could be paying £4 million for a better version of the safety regulator. We're choosing to pay £40 million for a weaker version. And the same thing is applying to a number of other things, a lot of other things that we currently cooperate with the EU, including research and development schemes. We currently pay a share of the costs, but get all of the benefits to schemes like this. With Brexit, and particularly this hard form of Brexit, we're having to pay all of the costs for a weaker version in every single case. This is why the government, the last time Boris Johnson has not allowed his civil service to calculate the cost recently, but the government before his calculated that the cost of this sort of Brexit would be £2 billion a week to the UK. Utter madness. So anyway, I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.